Everyone in the band's lovely. I think it's really good to be in a band with people that I just feel comfortable around and I'm good friends with, I think. And it's quite... I can have a laugh with everyone as well.
I think everyone in our band has quite obvious roles, I think.
Live and songwriting are two different things. So probably in songwriting, everybody takes part in that.
In terms of the band, Han is probably the enabler. She's like the person who gets things done.
The one that keeps us all in our place.
Who's drummer and manager and takes care of all our kind of management side.
I suppose I'm the organiser and manager.
She just keeps the shit locked down in more ways than one, both in terms of obviously timing, rhythm, things like that, but also she works as like our full-time manager, basically just like herding a pack of sheep, which is really difficult. And she sorts everything out from money to logistics to everything like that.
Gaz, I suppose he's kind of like the easy one to pick on.
I don't want to say the baby of the band, but he's like the young, optimistic one.
Everyone seems to target Gaz, just with sarcasm. Not in a horrible way, but it's just quite funny.
He obviously plays keyboards, but then the thing is that if we're doing any recording or anything, because he's got that grounding in sound production, then he really helps out with that, with his own studio and just his knowledge of that.
And we have me and Alex then, who just like do our thing. I don't know about myself.
Alex basically helps in the songwriting, plays bass and adds real depth to the band with his vocal.
Al is the handsome one. He's the face of the A-team.
Disorganised, needs a bit of a helping hand.
So I think the two vocal thing is something that we've developed. I think it adds a lot of depth and a lot of scope for things.
I just play when people are trying to talk and just make noise all the time. And that's all I do.
Scott's sort of the father figure.
He's kind of like the father figure, I'd say.
Some would say arrogant figure.
Kind of like the brains, maybe you'd say. Like he kind of calls the shots in terms of like song structures and stuff.
I just pluck a guitar. I do a bit of the helping in songwriting, but mainly I just piss people off by saying not that or that. I'm an arbitrator. That's basically my role.
Mark and Scott have got some weird kind of like married couple relationship. They never agree on anything, which is quite funny.
I guess I was the originator, so I sort of kicked things off, and especially in the early days did much of the writing, but now we share all that really.
Songwriter, he's probably the lead songwriter. He does all the lyrics and stuff like that.
I think he's very good at like facilitating compromise. I think is quite a good way to describe it.
Gets the job of polishing the turds. Most stuff coming out of jams, they need to be formed into songs, because sometimes we'll have traditional songs and sometimes we'll have jams or sounds or things like that, which kind of need to be then moulded into a song. And Mark's very good at that, as well as being the singer.
Dead Eyes, that's quite a new song.
I think it was kind of designed to be more of a set opener, really. Like as a band, we had the idea of just making some kind of sound file, like with a speech on it, to kind of come on at the beginning of a gig when we were setting up. And Scott came up with a quote from like Blade Runner, and I took that away. Kind of just built a kind of weird, kind of droney noise around that.
Basically, I got this old piano which I got off a friend of mine, and it only plays well somewhere around middle C, just right smack bang in the middle of the book, in the middle of the keyboard. You go too much either way and it slides out of tune, and so it's really restricted. And I'm just learning, or trying to progress my keyboard skills. So I was plinking away on it, and I found a chord structure which I really liked, and I brought it to the band, and we just virtually jammed the song into its current structure almost straight away.
And evolved quite quickly into a song, actually. Sometimes it takes us quite a while to develop a song, but this one kind of came quite quickly.
I don't think it was planned, and I think a lot of the songs we write, the better songs we write, come from less planned things. We don't plan to write a song, we just kind of wait messing around in the practice room. You know, someone has a riff or something, and then a song is born. And I think how we work, I think that's good. I think when we try and write a song, or someone has a song finished, it doesn't work out. So that's Dead Eyes, it's one of those kind of songs, just happened.
And then we just kind of wanted to do a song that kind of fitted that mood that we could start a set with.
The vocal line changed, but the underlying, the melody's fairly similar, and the chord structure's exactly the same. We just brought it together, and it's quite heavy in terms of what we play.
And just kind of like the whole kind of stabs at the beginning. It's kind of Beastie Boys-esque, which we kind of only really noticed after we'd actually put it all together. But it's a homage to the Beastie Boys, I suppose, at the beginning of that song.
And again, it's that the words are quite random. I'm sure if I read them back, they might have a little bit together. But the first lyrics were written by Al for the chorus, and it was a little bit political. So I think it's a bit about that sort of thing.
I'm not going to tell you who it's named after, because that's top secret.
And I think it kind of represents quite nicely on where we're going.
That is almost a pure Fjords song. I'd often think a lot of the songs I did the lyrics for, or the tune over, whatever, this is actually everyone contributed a little bit to it and dragged it one way and then another until we were happy with it. And I think it represents a new direction. I think most of our music's going to be like this going forward. It's Sod's Law. I had a band breaking up, and just as we were deciding to call it a day, I had an email. Stephen Mack would like to interview for Band of the Week. We're splitting up. So I still wanted to stay in the music and do another band. So I thought, well, let's just use it to my advantage and put an ad out. And it's great. I mean, I did know Scott and I bumped into him, but just having the kudos of saying, oh yeah, I was interviewed by Stephen Mack was wonderful. That was so helpful.
When I just finished, I was studying in Bristol, and I dropped out and came back to Cardiff and was kind of in a period of not knowing what to do with myself. And I joined, Mark had an advert out for musicians, and I joined. I was currently playing trumpet at the time.
We started out as Don't Tread on Spiders, and then a couple of members left.
And it was quite organic, and we've had a few member changes, and I think they're for the better. We were a different band before.
We changed our name to Fjords because we didn't like the name Don't Tread on Spiders. We recruited Alex as bassist, and then Gaz changed from trumpet player to keys.
I'm the latest addition to Fjord.
We've been like that for 2.5 years, just getting it together, evolving.
It's kind of changed directions of sound.
Because obviously, like most people who kind of do music and consider themselves or any form of art form, is that you kind of have to work at it to kind of get as close to what you want it to be.
We've just been kind of going through the motions, trying out different stuff, just kind of evolving our sound. And I think we've changed quite a lot.
Kind of like the idea that, without being too pompous, that like Michelangelo had this idea of within every block of stone there was like an angel waiting to get out. He had to just find it. And I kind of feel like that the band is almost still coming together in a way.
I think we're kind of putting out better stuff now than we have done.
Because we've got like a momentum, that it feels like we're still just getting our shit together.
I think it's just kind of improving as time goes on, really.
So even though we've been together, 2 years or something like that, every time we play, every time we write, it just feels fresh and feels like we're just coming together.
Fire on the Skyline is a bit of a different story.
It's not that finished, actually.
Most of our songs that we have done have come about through either just jamming sessions or someone bringing quite a small idea, like a riff or something, and then just jamming with that riff, basically just building around that. Fire on the Skyline was quite different, where Mark wrote a song. Basically he had different sections of a song and structure down in his head, and he brought it along to a practice.
Like acoustically, I suppose he did a demo of it.
And I thought it was the best song I'd ever heard him write.
That song went through quite a lot of different incarnations.
We've kind of redone it in probably about 4 different ways.
And originally it was it was very different, and it was a very good song. We all really liked it, but we couldn't see how it would fit with the Fjord sound.
I suppose it was quite poppy, and we thought, well, it's not really Fjords. So
got a fairly decent version of it together, I still think. We played that at our Polymath single launch gig. It went okay, but we still weren't unanimously set on it.
And we actually dropped it for a bit. We did, Mark wasn't happy with how Fjords were playing it, rightly so, and it got dropped.
We battled with it.
And then it kind of just came back, in a much simpler form. Now we just literally play the chords, the guys sing, and
we've done it almost acoustically, I suppose, but with some electronic drums and synths.
Because we haven't managed to find a real groove for it. It just works stripped down.
We did a few practices with that, and it just sounded better than the one we had before, I think. So we just stuck with that, and now it's made its way back into the set, which is quite interesting.
And it seems to have worked out quite well.
It's kind of a farewell song or a love song, really. It's about, the worst can happen and you can see it on the horizon.
And that's Fire on the Skyline, and I think it's a killer track. I really like playing it live, and I really like it.
We're almost there with it, but it's like anything that when you decide to record a piece of music, it's only representative really of where that song is at that moment in time. It's a constantly evolving thing, or it should be, I think. To me, music is about playing it to a degree about playing it live and how it's played live and how the people who actually wrote it decide that it should be played. And so I think we're still moving towards where it could possibly be captured, because at the moment it's strong, but it's not right. And we will know when it's right, because we'll just say, yeah, fuck, we've got to go in the studio, we've got to record this, we've got to get it down and capture it at its zenith, at its pinnacle, and then we can play around with it some more.
Best Fjords moment. I think it might have been the Scottish Widows advert, just that they said they actually emailed me. So yeah, I got into an advert and the angle they wanted to use was that I was in a band, which is brilliant, great, which is great for Fjords. And didn't think they'd ask for our song, but I remember getting the email through saying, oh yeah, the editor wants to use your new single. We'd literally just mixed it. I mean, brilliant timing. So yeah, that got used there. I remember that was really exciting.
Best moment recording at Mono Valley for our last two singles, mainly because loads of bands that I've been influenced by have played there, recorded there. So it was really good opportunity for us to do that as well.
I think probably some of the best when you do something good in a shit situation, whether that be playing to our best, performing our best, when there's like nobody there, or just being positive.
One of the best moments for me was the Dead Diamonds single launch gig that we did September 2012. So that's nearly 2 years ago now. It was one of the best gigs we've done. One of my favourite gigs we've done.
I guess the best moments is kind of, supporting some great bands. Like we've played with some really good bands like Kill It Kid.
It was just a really good vibe around that gig. Lots of people were there. We did like a rooftop acoustic session during the day, but there were maybe 3 people there who weren't in the band, and they were all just kind of significant others and stuff. But that was really good fun.
Probably Nicky and the Dove was actually a good moment for me, because they're now one of my favourite bands, Nicky and the Dove, and not at the time I didn't know who they were, but we played with them, and then like to kind of think about we've played with Nicky and the Dove is pretty special to me.
Obviously recording in some really good studios as well has been a highlight, like Faster Studios with Max and Mono Valley as well, because one of my favourite albums was recorded in Mono Valley, so that was quite cool to record there.
There's probably been lots of wonderful moments, a lot more than bad moments.
The worst, there are no bad points. I would struggle, to find something, a real bad point. We wouldn't do it if we thought they were shit.
There was one time, I think it was one of the first gigs we played in London. It was the first gig that I did in London. And the day before, I went to see Caravan Palace in Bristol, actually, just down the road. And that gig finished at about 3 or 4 in the morning.
Worst Fjords moment, I think, was when we went through a bit of a change. It was just before Al joined. I mean, everything happens for a reason, but we had 2 members leaving anyway. Had taken a real difficult decision to talk to one member about also leaving. So that was horrible, because, we all felt very close, but musically it wasn't working. I never want to have to do something like that again, but that wasn't nice.
I had to sleep on a bench and wait for the first train. Didn't really sleep. Got home at about 7 in the morning, and then had a bit of a nap. And I ended up missing my bus that I had booked to go back to London for the gig. I ended up running for the bus, and I just saw it pull away. And so I just went home. I spent about 70 quid on a train ticket to get to London.
Maybe last gig got caught. We kind of got roped into an encore and didn't have a song to play, so just did a jam, which wasn't the best idea. It sounded alright, but it just we should have not played really. Got to the venue and was just the most tired I've ever been in my life, and I had to play a gig then. That was a bit. I've been looking forward to playing London for ages, and I got there and I was just kind of like a zombie with a guitar on, like a zombie playing bass. That was a bit of an off gig really, but
going out in the big gig and that was pretty low. That was a pretty low moment when we played in the Moon Club. That was kind of quite disheartening.
There was this really good band practice, where we came up with 3-4 really good ideas. There was only 3 of us there. There was Han, Al, myself.
I'm not sure where the other guys were, but they had their reasons, obviously.
Well, I think it was written when I was kind of coming back to and from university, so
And obviously if 2/5 of the band aren't there, you can't really, it kind of gives you free rein to maybe just mess around a little bit more and have a bit of a jam.
And I guess it was just all stripped back, so when it just worked, we had a great groove going. And Polymath came out of it, another song or idea or 2 came out of it, but Sulwyn was the last one, I think, that came out of that.
It just started with, Han just set off the sample that opens the song. She just set that off on her drum pad, and then the bass line, the kind of quite sporadic bass line just popped into my head straight away, and I just played along with that, and we kind of just built the song around that.
And it was great. Just had a little guitar riff over Al's brilliant bass line. Han, as ever, came up with the drums straight away. It felt like a complete song almost straight away, just shouting, wailing over it really.
Mark writes the lyrics, so like any form of poetry or writing, the idea of meaning is down to the person who's reading or listening to it. What the lyrics mean to him, they're probably, like anybody who does any kind of confessional writing, then they're pretty personal.
Went back, listened to it again, the recording, because we always have a little recording ready, and thought, okay, there's a tune there, worked on that, needs some lyrics. So that took I'm really good at coming up with tunes like that. I'm really bad at writing lyrics, though. I can take a while. But I went on holiday in Brooklyn, New York, and the words just came. They just happened. I just had a little book and a pencil and kept jotting away, and I had all the material I needed. And I just thought it was random. And there's bits about being in the metro, and there's bits, about United Nations, and it's just random bits. Having coffee early in the morning, but put them all together. We recorded it, and then I was rereading the lyric. I realised it was all about me. It was like all about my baggage. I realised, wow, this is like a letter to yourself. And even the name Sulwyn means sun heart. And I thought, sun. That's like even like my name's Sunny. Sorry, it sounds a bit like I'm reaching, but that with everything else, it's just like, wow, Freud would have a field day there. There's definitely something subconscious going on there in that song.
Essentially, I think it's telling oneself off, or telling oneself the way that shit is, as opposed to the way you had thought it had been.
Yeah, we recorded it in Mono Valley, which was a really cool experience.
I can't remember when that was. When was that?
Last November?
Was it November?
October, November time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, nearly a year ago, we recorded that. We're finally getting to release it now, which is quite exciting. We locked Gaz in his studio shed and whipped him until he mixed it, self for mastering, and I think it sounds pretty good.
I think it bridges a gap nicely between what we were doing before and where we're going. It never feels like we're kind of changing tack or direction massively, but we're just kind of sliding around gradually from one kind of genre or way of writing to another.